Imagine living out of your backpack for 23 years. Well, that's exactly what travel junkie Spencer Bown did, but he had a good reason for doing so. He spent the last 2 decades traveling to every single country in the world. He shares his journey in his new book, The World's Most Traveled Man, and he joins us now. It is so wonderful to speak with you. How are you?
Pretty good, yeah. Pleasure to be here.
When did you decide that this was something that you wanted to do?
It was actually looking out from a mountainside in British Columbia down through a valley where I saw a lot of ponderosa pines and shimmering lakes. And I thought, what an interesting ecosystem. And at the time, I used to live in the bush, sometimes for up to 3 months or even 6 months without speaking, just living off the land. And so I was very interested in ecosystems and in animals particularly. But then I thought, there's a lot of other ecosystems around the world. And I'd seen what I could see across Canada and a little bit of the States. But I was really curious about jungles and maybe the Himalaya mountains, things like that. So I started traveling originally to check out these ecosystems and to see the different animals. But then I found out that the people are actually, if anything, more interesting.
And this started, was there an end point in mind? Did you say to yourself, I'm going to do this, I'm going to give it a year, maybe 2 years? And then you just kept pushing it?
I was very unrealistic. So I thought, I wonder if I can see the whole world. And I thought, what will that take? I look at some countries. Oh, about 4 years. I'm like, no.
Wow. What is one thing that you had throughout all of your journeys?
A mosquito net.
Yeah, mosquito net.
Yeah,
you need a mosquito net.
You do, because there's so many mosquito-borne illnesses. And even if you're in a place like Russia, you need your mosquito net because the mosquitoes live year-round in the bottoms of some of those old Soviet-style buildings, and they come up and bite you during the night, even in midwinter.
On this list, another thing that's really interesting is khaki shirt for quick dry fabric and lots of pockets, useful for impersonating officials.
Yeah, you need that.
Okay, what did you learn? Yeah, how did you learn that that's something you needed to do?
Well, for instance, going past the Rodanzori Mountains, where people had said because of genocidal Hutu rebels, it was impossible for any foreigner to travel, you'd just be killed. And I thought, it's doable, but I had to come up with a plan, and I thought, well, I'll impersonate a UN inspector. So I had like a proper shirt, just like they wear, lots of pockets. I even had a clipboard, and I had some official-looking documents. And as I was going along, of course, you have either insurgents or police, or they're almost the same thing, because they're all coming and saying in French they're going to kill me. But then I would say I'm an inspector for the UN, and I'm trying to see if this road's okay. We're going to be sending a convoy through. And then they're like, oh, okay, yes, sir, on I go.
At any point when you are facing these people with guns, and it must have happened more than once over 20 some odd years, did you ever think, you know what, I've had my fill of danger. Maybe I'm going to go home now. Maybe I'm going to go back to Canada.
Well, actually, you get quite good at it after a while. Because in a lot of countries, like Asia used to be quite dodgy. It's not so much now. But you used to be confronted with angry officials or police quite often. And Africa the same. But I found it was a lot like bear barging in the Canadian wilderness. So what you do when you're bear barging, you just make yourself as big as possible and you run toward them. And when the bear notices you're not afraid, it backs off. And it's the same thing with these kind of corrupt police on the road. So they're looking actually at your pupils and they're trying to determine, are you afraid or not? And if you're afraid, they really press their advantage and you lose all your cash.
Social media has changed so much of how we interact with the world around us. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for travel?
Well, okay, I talked to some of these social media people, so I'm not one. I've even had a friend who was killed for his smartphone. I'm really careful about it. In fact, I got my first smartphone just a week ago. Normally, I don't carry with it, that kind of stuff. It's very expensive, and you might have trouble as a result. But I think that these social media travelers are having a bit of a problem keeping at it, because I've noticed that ones who've been doing 6 or 7 years, they tend to burn out. Because in a way, they're burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
Because not only are they traveling, they're also making their money through travel. And it's difficult, it's too much, I think.
So what would your best piece of advice be for somebody who wants to travel and live that vagabond lifestyle?
I'd say don't be afraid to do the freestyle travel. Because too many people plan too much. It's like, let's say you were going to Ireland, like some people I know were a few years ago. And they had kind of a difficult time with the scheduling because they wanted to do 20 things. And it was really hard to do those 20 things. And I was thinking, oh no, they should have asked me for advice. Because they should have planned not to do any specific 20 things, just 20 things.
Just 20 things.
Because there's more than enough to see in Ireland or Great Britain. You don't have to say you have to exactly get here, and maybe if the ferry's late, you're off schedule and all that. You don't need to schedule so much. You can just sort of drift around, talk to people. Whatever happens ends up being fun usually, and you have an adventure.
Mike, we only have a couple of seconds left, so lastly, where are you off to next?
I was thinking maybe Solomon Islands, because it's nice and warm.
Warm. See, I like where your head's at, my friend. Mike, thank you so much. Congratulations. All the best.